we'll go ahead and get started because I do have a hard stop at 12. I have to lead the TL community at 12 o'clock.
Photo request live.
Now I'm just trying to find the present button because, you know.
Top right.
Oh, you know what? I was like, something's blocking something. There we go. My Zoom bar was blocking present. All right. So today I'm talking about one of my favorite subjects. It's called The Miracle Morning, or it's by The Miracle Morning, called SAVERS. So how to transform your life with 6 powerful habits. This is based off of a book by Hal Elrod. So if you scan the QR code, that will take you to Amazon, where his book is sold. But this book is actually one that definitely played a key part in where I am today. It was one of the first, at the time I would call it self-help books that I read back when I was 28 years old. Which then put me on the path to real estate, and the rest is history. So I do really believe that the things that you do and the habits that you do in the morning can truly set not only your day up for success, but can actually help change who you are as a person, and then eventually as a leader. So we're going to go through essentially what those 6 habits are. And then at the end, I'm going to give you some tips on how you can implement this strategy. So before I get started, has anyone read the book, or is anybody practicing SAVERS currently?
Working on
A few
it.
years ago, I read The Miracle Morning, the one that was for agents.
Yes. Perfect. Yeah.
And it's one of those books that you
it's
should reread every once in a while when you get off track.
I would agree. It's definitely not a once and done. It's always a good one to revisit for sure. And yeah, I know John Henry has been working on it as part of his 66-day challenge post Bold. And then I taught my team the SAVERS a couple weeks ago, and I believe some of them are also starting to implement as well. So SAVERS stands for silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing, which, just to keep the acronym, scribing is just a different word for journaling.
Except you have to use a feather pen.
Yes, feather pens only with real ink from an octopus. All right. So when you change the way you wake up in the morning, you change your entire life. So perfect quote to get this started. Because I definitely believe that these morning habits led me to where I am today. So the first part of your SAVERS is simply just practicing silence. This can be different for everybody, right? Some people, this is their prayer time. This is their devotional time. For some people, it's meditation. It can also be simply just reflection. For me, it's probably more like meditation at this point. An app that I use that helps me practice this is Calm, but there's a lot of apps out there like Headspace. I think there's one called Insight, and it's free. But really, this is just time for you to just kind of be still in the moment. So when your alarm goes off, you don't want to have to just jump right into doing something that takes a lot of energy. This is kind of your way to wake up, become present, so you can learn to enjoy the process. Silence only has to take about 5 minutes. You don't have to dwell in this for a really long time. As you develop the SAVERS, you're going to figure out the best method for you and how much time you want to spend on each item. The timing that I'm teaching you in today's session is to help you stay within an hour. So that way it's not taking up too much of your time in the morning. I myself, my SAVERS now take me an hour and a half, just because I like to do certain things a little bit longer than originally recommended. So just keep that in mind, that you can make this as flexible as possible. So that way it's something that you enjoy and you can make it to fit your lifestyle. The next part is to practice affirmations. We learned about this in Bold, and I'll be honest, when I first started Savers, I thought affirmations were kind of silly. Like I didn't feel comfortable doing them. I felt awkward, even though I was by myself. But I will say that what I started to do was I actually kind of pushed affirmations on my kids first. Like it was easier for me to tell them how to do it than it was for me to do it myself. So my kids say every morning, I am brave, I am strong, I am kind, and I am beautiful. So I have them say it 3 times. And then if there's something that they're struggling with, I'll have them add an affirmation that kind of helps them with whatever that struggle is. So for example, if Kinsley is struggling with her spelling words that week, I'll tell her, like, why don't you say something like, I'm gonna get mastery on my spelling test this week, and I know how to spell my challenge word, right? Like just different things that she can apply. So once she believes in herself, then it'll actually happen. And that's exactly what affirmation should be for you. So what's something that you're struggling with that you tell yourself you're struggling with that you can make the negative then a positive? Does anybody have an example of something that they're struggling with that they could easily turn into a positive?
I mean, I can just say my morning routine that sucks. Like if I fixed it and really made the changes I need to make, like I got thrown off last week because I got sick and then it's been hard to get back on track. But working on that affirmation of my morning routine makes my life so much better. If I can use that as an affirmation and fake it till I make it, it's just something I got to practice.
Absolutely. And I think another part of that could be just telling yourself, I am a morning person. Like, how often do people say, oh, I'm not a morning person? And they say it all the time. And that's the block and why they can't wake up in the morning. But if they just started saying out loud, I am a morning person, eventually they're going to believe it. So I definitely think that's a great example. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy. For me, I now make my affirmations a part of my journaling. So I write it. Because for me, then I'm writing it, I'm reading it. It's like using multiple senses for me. And I feel like that helps me believe it more.
Brittany, I know, you've certainly worked with the leadership team in encouraging us, those of us who aren't necessarily avid readers to read. And so I find myself, 6 months ago, I would say, I'm not a reader. I'm not a reader. I'm not a reader. And now I find myself, and my husband is actually saying, like, you're a reader. Like, you're a reader.
You are a reader.
And I'm becoming a reader. Yes.
I love that.
Can I add something about this?
Please.
So I just started this book actually like 2 weeks ago. So I'm not finished it yet, but it was really interesting because I shared with my kids, like in the beginning of the year, something that I heard that they did a study about kids who said to themselves, I'm excited to take this test, even when they weren't excited to take the test, but they told themselves to say it before the test. Like, I'm excited to take this test. No kids are excited to take tests, obviously. And what they did was they tested the kids who said that before they took the exam versus kids who didn't say it, obviously, before they took the exam. And obviously, and nothing changed with their study habits or the effort that they put in. And those that said it scored higher. And I think this book touches on kind of the same premise as far as, I don't know if like the sleep thing is part of this section, but it had to do with like, if you tell yourself before bedtime, oh gosh, it's like 11 o'clock, I'm gonna have a miserable day tomorrow, I didn't get enough sleep, versus doesn't matter what time you go to bed, even if you're only gonna get 4 hours of sleep, if you say to yourself, wow, I'm going to feel refreshed tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be amazing. Those
Wow.
people actually did feel amazing. It's so insane how your mind, body, like the physiology behind it work. And so all of this affirmation stuff is where it's at. And so I actually make my kids
I
say
love it.
before tests that they're excited to take a test. It's like something we have to do every day. Yeah.
I love that. I'm going to implement that. Like right away. I'm going to implement that because that is something that, you know, you're completely right. Like I used to be terrified to teach classes, even to small groups. Like I would be so nauseous before team meetings. I would be shaking. And now that you're telling that story, like I would just tell myself, like, Brittany, you got this. You know the content, you're prepared. Like, and I would just keep talking to myself. And now I don't have those same feelings when I get up in front of a classroom. Like I'm completely natural now. It's just another part of my day. But I think it's like it was the words I was saying to myself versus being like, I'm so anxious. It was turning that around and being like, I got this. This is good. I love that.
that's
Anybody else
awesome.
have an affirmation that they use that they feel like works for them? Do you use them before listing appointments? Like, I'm going to get them signed.
I have something to add. I feel like whenever you speak affirmations and just the way our mind is designed, we start to look for evidence around us for the things that we've said. And so it brings a higher awareness of where you do have those moments or those strengths or whatever it is you're kind of speaking into existence. You then start to look for it and you notice it, and then it becomes more you. And the more you it becomes, the more you see it. And it is kind of a snowball thing where you become more and more that thing, because psychologically you are looking for and looking for evidence of that thing you're saying you are.
I love that. Yeah, that's so true. And same goes for, you know, why you shouldn't have negative self-talk, right? Like, because what you say, you do believe. So if you constantly talk negatively to yourself, you're going to just constantly see the evidence of why that's true versus the opposite. So I love that. That's very, very good. The next one, V is for visualization. So our next class after this, Miss Adrienne is actually going to teach you how to create a vision board like this one in Canva. So no glue, no scissors, no having to search through old magazines, right? A very easy way to create a vision board. And there's a lot that actually goes behind this visualization piece. So much like saying affirmations and speaking positivity about yourself and what you're capable of, seeing your vision will also help it become a reality. This is my updated vision board for this year. But I will say for my 2023 vision board, and I had my kids create one as well. We all completed almost everything on our vision boards last year. And I really do believe it's because not only did we create them, but we had them printed. So in my girls' rooms, they each have their vision board hanging right next to their mirrors. So that way, as they're getting ready in the morning, they have that visualization piece right next to when they're kind of reflecting on, do they like their outfit for the day? And I have it there purposely because I know they're going to see it. I have one in my bedroom. I have one in my office at work. And then I also have it in my notes app on my phone. So when I'm doing my savers in the morning, and it's time for me to do that visualization piece, I can actually look at my vision board. And I do a couple of things here. So I visualize what would it look like if I actually did all these things? Like, how would I feel when I accomplish all of these things? And then I also reflect on, am I doing something today, this week, this month to get me closer to the items on my vision board? So just for example, you can see here, I have a lot of books. So I have a goal to read 52 books this year. half of which would be leadership books, which you can see here on the left. And then on the right, I just have this little graphic here to remind me that I also need to be reading half of those as fiction books or books that aren't necessarily for growth. So maybe like a biography that's just for fun, just something that I'm interested in. And then I also have on here pictures from my women's mastermind, and that's just because I want to make that double the size next year. I have a picture here of us donating a check to the Grace Samaritan, and that's because not only do I want to make sure we can do that again, but I want to make sure that as a company, we can make a larger impact to other local nonprofit organizations. So I want to make sure that that's at the forefront of every event that we host. I have on here some travel things, Ben playing guitar, because I want to make sure that he is able to still chase his dream in music. I have on here New York City because the kiddos definitely want to go back. The quote, collect memories, not things. So for those of you who don't know, I practice the best that I can minimalism. And it's really difficult in a world where buying things and marketing is all over social media. But what it reminds me of is in the morning is when I have that urge to, buy a new, I'm just trying to think of something that I wanted to buy recently and I can't think of it right now. But when I get the urge to buy like the new latest trend in clothing, I have that quote every morning reminding me that I'm trying to not spend my money on things that only give me temporary gratification. I'm trying to save my money so I can take my kids on more trips and more experiences, because I'd rather have the memories that last forever than the things. And it just kind of helps reset my mind every morning. You'll see my word of the year is peace. So that's another part of my visualization in the morning is how can I carry peace in everything that I do? Am I making decisions that bring peace, that bring others peace? Am I taking on too much and taking away from my own peace? So that's all part of my visualization. It sounds like a lot, but I really only spend about 5 minutes here. I don't spend a whole lot. Sometimes this prompts reflection in my journaling later, but it is just a good reminder of what is important to me because it's really easy to get pulled in other directions to things that actually aren't that important to me. It's just bright, shiny, and it looks fun temporarily, but then it takes me away from what my values are. Does anybody practice visualization right now or have a vision board that they use?
I just have to hop in for a second because I have a goal of reading 24 books this year.
That part,
And
Mariah.
my daughter's here because this morning we did our first miracle morning together. And I was like, this will be fun. You can come and sit in on this class, and she has a snow day.
Aw.
And whenever you mentioned that your goal, because 24 has felt a little daunting after getting through my first one and starting my second, I was like, wow, I gotta like keep going. You said 52, and my daughter goes, just? She is such an avid reader. She reads like a book or two a week. And she's like, that's only one a week. And I'm like over here going, I don't know how I'm going to do my 24. And you said 52, and it just like shocked me. And then to have my daughter sit next to me and go, just it cracked me up. Sorry, I had to share.
No, but Brittany, I actually do have a question about that. How are you reading that many books? Is it Audible or is it reading?
I have a great, that's a great question. And I think I have a good answer for you. So in the mornings, I only read books that are growth related. So I read every morning for 30 minutes. And that time is any type of book that's some type of growth. So business, personal development, anything that's going to help me be a better leader in life and for the organization, I read in the morning. So right there, I'm knocking out about 30 minutes a day just with nonfiction. Every night, I read fiction books because I actually suffer from like anxiety. So at nighttime, if I don't read, I will lay in bed and I will think about all the things that I didn't accomplish, all the things that I need to do, and I will go down this really dark spiral. And then I won't sleep, and it's a really vicious cycle. So what I found was when I read fiction books, I actually fall asleep and I don't think about those things, and I sleep much better. So I do fiction at night, nonfiction in the morning. And then, yes, I do fill in my gaps with Audible. So sometimes I'll get the same book that I'm reading in the morning for Audible so I can knock it out faster. Other times I'm actually reading a totally different book on my commutes. And what I've been trying to do is I do research the books a little bit before I pick them. And sometimes I find that people will say the Audible was better, just because the author will give extra insight. So for example, a book that I think is completely worth doing Audible versus reading the physical book is Buy Back Your Time. It's very podcast style. He does a whole Q&A between each chapter. There's a lot of value there that you wouldn't get from just reading the book alone. So yeah, I do a combination of Audible, physical books, and then reading throughout the day. Another thing that I do is I check myself. So like every time I'm picking up my phone during my free time, I literally am saying to myself, do I really want to be on Facebook right now, or could I be reading? And that has helped me a ton, because the amount of time I was wasting on social media for no reason at all, I could have been reading a book that gave me more fulfillment. For example, the latest fiction book I read was called Remarkably Bright Creatures. Oh my gosh, changed my life. My new favorite book of all time. I read it for 5 hours straight on Sunday. Think about how often people do that just watching Netflix. So instead of binge Netflix like watching shows or binging on social, I just binge read something that I enjoy.
Wow.
That's amazing and so
Silence.
impressive. Yeah.
It took me a while to get here, right? Like last year I read 24 books, and that was a leap for me. And it was just one of those growth moments of I had that realization. I can't remember what class it was. It may have been Mega Camp, actually. I think one of the speakers talked about it. I wish I could remember who it was. It may have been Molly Fletcher. But one of the speakers talked about how much we're on our phones and like what else could you be doing with that time? And I was like, oh my gosh, I could be reading. And I get so much joy from it. So, which we'll talk a little bit more about here shortly. So the next part is exercise. In SAVERS, E for exercise. I will say I do this last. It's my preference. I know some people who do exercise first. For me, as soon as I'm done exercising, like I want to go shower and get all that, taken care of. I couldn't just sit there in my filth reading. I wouldn't feel comfortable. But I do 30 minutes of strength exercise 3 days a week. I use the app Copilot, which is basically you get a real personal trainer, but you just communicate with them through the app. So that's what I do. And then the other 2 days a week is just more of like stretching, yoga, something more peaceful, but that way I don't get out of the habit of doing movement at that time. But the key to the exercise isn't just for health purposes, but it truly does boost your energy the rest of the day. And it also gives you so much mental clarity. Some of my best ideas for just life in general, as well as for KW, have come from a period of exercise. So whether I was walking and like my brain was going, but just it really unfogs the brain, like gets the blood pumping, and some of your best ideas, I think, can come after you move and just, work on yourself. So I'm a big proponent for exercise. Exercise is usually exercise and reading are the first things I cut out of my life when I start to feel overwhelmed. And then I start to spiral and I'm like, why am I in such a bad place right now mentally? And then I realize it's because I stopped exercising and I stopped reading, the two things that bring me clarity and boost my energy, I took away. So there's definitely a correlation for me with exercise. Anybody here have an exercise goal as part of their New Year's resolutions?
Yep.
Tell me more.
Well, I got my garage set up for exercise and I put a heater in it. And I got new weights that were expensive. And then I have my garage is full of crap and I've not done anything with it. So I have a goal, but I am really struggling to get past just the the mindset that I have a goal. And I've struggled with that with a lot of different things, whether it's food, drugs, alcohol, shopping, cars. But I can tell you one thing is that I've never, since I joined KW, I've done more self-help stuff than I've ever done in my entire life. And it's been a year and 4 months. So I know I'm going in the right direction, but I still struggle daily with a lot of this. All of it.
So, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, and I think you'll be okay with me saying this, but in most of the other items that you mentioned that you went through a struggle with, but you were able to overcome, you always had a coach or some type of an accountability system in place. So for exercise, what's an accountability system you could put in place to help you be accountable to your exercise goal?
I won't mention any names, but there's a PC that might be helpful.
That could be helpful. I'm going to
But
caution you on
I'm just kidding. No,
because
that's not it. I need to hire like an outsider, to be honest with you. Like I need to hire somebody that's outside of like the household because and I'm not meaning to speak for her, but she's busy. Like she works all day, she's with her mom all night, and then we get home and we just want to sit. And because we're stressed out, or she's more stressed than I am, but there's stressful things going on, and then like, you know, you just get through the day and I'm not waking up the way I want to wake up. I'm not giving myself enough time. So I feel like the worst thing for me is like I always have to pay for it or it doesn't work. Like if I'm not paying somebody, like, so I lost 40 pounds last year. I paid somebody $350 to coach me on how to eat. And Taylor's been telling me to eat that way for 5 years. But, you know, just something has to change.
I know you can see my screen. I'm going to drop in a link here. But yeah, I'm with you. And I had to do the same thing, right? So to save my marriage, we definitely Ben and I could not be each other's accountability partner. That has never worked out well for us. So I had to hire someone through this app called Copilot. Now there's tons of options, right? Maybe you need a physical trainer that you go physically see at a gym. I couldn't be honest, like that just wasn't in my budget. So Copilot, it's $100 a month. My first meeting with my personal trainer was through Zoom. I could talk to them about what my needs were. You can have as many Zooms as you want, but I don't need it anymore. But she sets up my workout routine in the app. And so when I get up in the morning and I go into the app, it literally walks me through each exercise I have to do. And my Apple Watch will actually send her my movement so she can see if I'm doing the exercise correctly, so I don't hurt myself. And so you're getting the full benefit of the movement, right? And then at the end of the workout, I can message her like, how was the workout? Was it hard enough? Was it too easy? Did I feel like it was too leg heavy and not enough abdominal work? Whatever my feelings are, I can submit that to her, and then she'll chat with me back throughout the week and adjust my exercises. And I'm motivated to do it because I'll lose my streaks and she'll know if I didn't work out. Plus I'm paying for it. So I want to make sure that if I'm going to use money from my family's budget, I'm going to make sure I stick with it. So I would agree with you, like finding some type of accountability system. Oftentimes when you have skin in the game financially, that will do the trick. And one thing I will tell you, because I know a lot of people cringe when they're like, ugh, one more thing I have to pay for. Where you spend your time and where you spend your money shows you where your values actually are.
Ugh.
What in your budget can you cut out so that way you can afford to invest in your health? And in 2023, if there is anything that I learned, it is that you do need to invest in your health, because paying $100 a month for a co-pilot and, you know, maybe increasing your grocery bill a little bit so you're eating healthier food can literally help you save thousands of dollars on a hospital bill and medical bills. So take it from me. It's better to pay it up front to live healthy versus paying it on the back end because you're not healthy and not feeling good. And thank you, Amanda. She just dropped in that link to buy back your time. Definitely check that out. Ben Giles mentioned in the chat, he has a few friends in an accountability text thread. They text each other their exercises every day and then high five, in quote, high five the crap out of each other. There's like 5 people in the text thread. So if you aren't the one exercising, you're going to start to feel bad. So that's a free way to do it, right? Just having an accountability group. So thank you, Ben, for sharing. Anybody else have anything to add on exercise or accountability?
I think John and I think are very similar. And I know Mariah is. Yeah. But we have it's, if it isn't convenient, it's out of your brain. If it isn't something that's easy, and it's starting a new process, it is very difficult to do. So because it looks like the elephant, and breaking it down into bite-sized pieces is hard for my brain to do anyway. So then I just don't do it. And then that starts a different cycle of mental, I'm not good enough. Oh my gosh, I'm so lazy. Oh my gosh. No, it's just, anyway. So I found that, you know, Mariah and I took it. Do you mind if I share? Is that okay? Yes. Okay. So,
Anything, I'm an open book. So whatever you want to share, go for it.
Okay, cool. Because we decided on Friday last week that we were going to do a body doubling. And I know this is not a part, but it is kind of intersperses itself with the active piece of it, which you know, left to our own device, left to our own devices, you know, we tend to just not do the things. And it's not because we're lazy or anything like that. It's just, it's the actual executive function of doing those things is hard. So Mariah and I were body doubling on Friday together, just working in the same space. And she just mentions that she was going to a dance class. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been for months. I'm like, I need to get back into dance. I need to get back into dance. That's one of my love languages. It's something that I've done since I was little. And, you know, it's been 3 years since I actually went back into the rooms to dance. So she's just like, you know, Mariah's giving heart. She's like, you need to come with me. And I'm like, but and she understood, because she took the step that she understood me, that I needed to take the step. And she lovingly supported she basically lovingly threw me into saying, you must come and this is what you're going to do. And then immediately following that activity is to start getting into the habit of actually preparing yourself for the next time you're going to do it. So I don't have a membership. I just was a one-off class, right? So she's like, you need to sign up for the next week's class. Just get it on your schedule. Just get it on your schedule. And if you make the step to get it on your schedule, and it's a non-negotiable, I find, and then you have somebody back there ramping you up for something that, you know, the whole way there, it was rainy, it was gross. I didn't want to go. I'm like, I'm going to go. I'm going to hit traffic. I'm like, let me just hit traffic. I don't want to go, just so I'll turn around because I can't be late to a dance class, you know? So I'm like excusing the whole time I'm driving there. I'm excusing not going. And I get there and it's the best thing that was, I mean, just such great soul food. And I feel like that's like the difficulty for a lot of people is not when you get to the gym, it's when you're at the gym, it's easy. When you're doing the exercises, it's relatively easy, but it's actually getting to the point where you're doing those things. That's the hard part. So, you know, just having Mariah be a voice of like urging and support, you know, like John, maybe what it looks like is that finding someone that's like that. And maybe that's what it is a PC or someone that's just going to lovingly nudge you in the thing that once you get there feeds your soul. And I feel like exercise does that, but it does that for in a lot of different ways for a lot of different people. So for me, it's dancing or listening to music, and you know, that's my soul, that's my soul food. So for maybe it's you, it's going to hit virtual golf balls at the Wired Golf, or you know what I mean, Go Golf or something that's going to get you physically active, but that feeds your soul at the same time. It's not just me doing sit-ups. You will never get me into a gym where I'm just doing like won't happen. So sometimes just finding the right thing that's going to, you know, is going to make you just go when you're done with it, instead of just going to work. I'm going to work out. I'm going to get swole.
And then signing up for it again while you're still on the high before you regret signing up for it. Because that's the biggest thing is when I feel like signing up, I sign up, the money's paid, and then I almost trick myself into getting there. So similar to what Amy said, the first time I went, I came up with a dozen reasons why I wasn't going to go the first time. And I just kept taking the tiny little steps towards the place. And then before I knew it, I woke up at the gym, not even really understanding how I took all these tiny steps to get there. But when you were in it, it was exciting. And so even with Amy on the way back, we were chatting. I was like, you got to sign up right away while you're still excited. Because I know how that's like the biggest hurdle is like getting it on your calendar, making it a priority. And then once it's on your calendar and you've paid for something, you kind of just take these little small steps and find yourself there, and it just happens.
Then it's like for me, it's like AA or you know, it's my necessary medicine. And by golly, would I want to take that type of medicine than something that is keeping me either sitting my butt on the couch and not being productive, and that's just going to make me a better version of myself, so that it becomes easier. The art of practicing the things that are difficult for us is not the action itself. Like the action itself, when we're doing the task, is not the task. It's getting to the point where we actually can execute the task. It's right. And I feel like that is like, if I could, and I feel like when I'm at my best in that regard is when I am doing the things that feed my soul, that make me live in a happier, healthier place. And then that gap gets smaller. It's still there, but it gets smaller. And it's been, I know, for years, and years it's been like that, where I just have that gap has been like, you know, I'm like, I just want somebody else to fill the gap and then just point me to where I need to be when I need to be there. And I don't want to think about it. You know, I don't want to need to have any executive function, just that. But when you start to feed your soul in all of these ways, which is what I think you're saying, Brittany, is what this program's all about.
For sure. And making it yours, like make it enjoyable. Like, you know, for reading, if I start reading a book and I don't like it, you know, like it just is, I'm not vibing with the way they write or whatever it is, I don't finish it. I'm like, you know what? Other people liked it. I don't, moving on. Like, I'm not gonna make it purposefully unenjoyable. Exercise, I found something that I look forward to, and I set up, so I work out at home. I just found that's what was easiest for me because I have kids and Ben travels. And so anyway, like in my basement where I work out, like I've got like this faux fireplace, and I make the mood real chill, and I put my yoga mat out, and I have my water and my coffee and my candle. So it smells good. And I've got like this whole vibe going just to work out for 30 minutes. But it's because that's what gets me excited to go downstairs and like be in my zen. So yeah, you got to make it enjoyable. Same thing with lead gen. Not that we're talking about lead gen this morning, we're talking about savers, but you got to find what you love with lead generation, right? It doesn't have to be cold calling. Find the thing that makes you passionate and excited to do it. Great conversation. I love this. So I know we talked about reading pretty heavily, so I'm just going to use this time to show you a little trick that I recently learned, and I'm super excited about it. So reading, the one quote that I love from Miracle Morning is, the difference between where you are today and where you'll be 5 years from now will be found in the quality of books that you've read, which I think is so powerful, and it is so true. So Ben made a mug for me, a coffee mug that has some of my favorite growth books on there. So if you take a look at this image, these are truly books that I have found impactful in my life along the way. So take note of these books. But another thing I want to show you, so I used to struggle with how to take notes properly from my books. So I would like highlight, and after I was done reading, I would have to sit there and painfully flip back through all my highlights so that way I can type up all my notes. And it just took a lot of time. So I watched a video the other day, and what the gentleman does is he does highlight his book, but then at the end of each reading session, he takes just a couple of minutes and he creates his own index in the front of the book. So when he highlights something, he'll write the quote that he highlighted and then the page number where he found it. So that way, when he needs to reference something, you know, in a couple of months from now, if he's going to do a presentation on the book, or he just needs to revisit it for whatever reason, he can read that front cover because those were all the important quotes for him and what pages he found it to make it easier. So he's basically creating his own table of contents, or like his own index to the things that are important to him. And then what he does at the end is he writes his ahas and his action items in the back of the book. So where there's like those random blank pages at the end, he uses that to then write down, these are my ahas on the left. And then on the right, he writes down, and these are my 3 to 5 main action items that I plan on implementing right away. So I dropped a video on that in the Facebook group, I think about a week ago. Adrian, was it a week ago?
Yeah, it was a great video.
So good. So definitely check that out, because reading only is helpful if you actually implement the things that you learn. So you can be the brightest person in the room and read all the books, but if you're not implementing what you're learning from those books, you're not going to experience growth. So I found that.
If we're looking to get our hands on some books that somebody might have available, where would we be able to do that?
So in the cafe, there is a little take a book, leave a book, completely free section of books that got started with our book exchange. So when you look in the cafe, there's like the sink and the coffee maker. It's to the right of that. There's a pile of books there. So if you read a book and you want to pass it along, you can leave it there. And if you see a book in that pile that you think sounds like something you could use, just take it. That's actually where I got this book from. Good to Great was in that pile. So I'm reading that now. And when I finish it, I'll type up whatever notes I need from my index that I created, and then I'll leave it in that pile. So the next person gets to benefit not only from the book, but also from my notes. And then the last part of Savers is scribing. Your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. So another thing that I really learned in 2023, and maybe I've always known this, but it finally just, you know, I got a lot of clarity around being intentional about dealing with the things that are inside of us. And so by writing those things out via journaling, it actually does help you cope and deal with the things that you're kind of battling on internally. So journaling can be positive. Maybe if you've never gratitude or journaled before, you could start with simply just writing down what you're grateful for. It's a great exercise to help you put in a good mind, get yourself in a good mindset for the day. But I also recommend every now and then just writing out, what are your struggles? Like, what are you upset about? What is stopping you from succeeding in whatever goal you're trying to accomplish? What are some things that are affecting you personally? And working on those struggles, whatever they are, will help you in every aspect of your life. So I'll be very vulnerable. A thing that I struggled with because I'm getting better, is forgiveness. Like I have dealt with some things in my life and I was holding on to those things. And I noticed even in the way that I lead, in the way that I interact with others, that lack of forgiveness was preventing me from building relationships at a deeper level, right? I kind of had my walls up. So something that I've been really working through really the last 3 months, if I'm honest, is learning how to let go of those things that I've been holding on to, and learning how to take down my walls and allowing other people in to my world. And I did all of that through reading a book about forgiveness and then journaling and working through the exercises in that book and just being really real about what's going on in here. So that way I'm not projecting negativity on the world through things that I'm holding on the inside. I want to make sure I'm projecting positivity. So in order to project positivity, I got to be positive on the inside too. So that's what journaling is for me. Sometimes I spend a minute here and it's just, hey, this is what I'm grateful for. I'm good for the day. And sometimes I'm here a lot longer. So that's why sometimes my savers can be up to an hour and a half. And I just make sure I have that time allotted appropriately on days that I feel like I need a little bit more time here. So for me, scribing, journaling is actually really healing. But for those who've never done it before, it can be a difficult thing to just get started. So I really would just start out with simple things of like, what are you grateful for? Anybody have anything to add on scribing?
Yeah, can I chime in for a sec?
Absolutely.
So this was so timely. I think it was 2 days ago. I'm sure any of you iPhone users, you might have had the same experience I did. But 2 days ago, I noticed that there was a new app on my phone that just appeared. And it's called Journal.
Yes, I saw that this morning.
Yeah, and so Apple now has, you know, like all of their proprietary apps, I guess. They have this new one called journaling. I have probably 15 different journals that I have started at one time in my life or another. I go shopping for the prettiest cover and the right size, and is it spiral bound? And I make such a big deal about buying the journal, and then I maybe write in it for a day or two, and then it goes in a drawer. I never do anything with it. And so, I mean, unfortunately and fortunately, you know, my phone is always with me. So the notion of being able to have that journal right there, and it gives you prompts. So sometimes for me, that's the hardest thing is I don't even know what I should be writing about right now. And then it feels awkward. And then I'm just like, okay, I'm going to go do something else. But it actually has prompts that it'll give you, which I think is super helpful if you just struggle with knowing what am I supposed to be doing right now.
I love that so
I
much.
had no idea.
Me either. I love it. I used to just use my notes app, so this will be a lot more helpful. All right, so real quick, so I do have to hop off here at 12. We have 9 minutes left. So here's some tips for getting started. The number one thing in order to start doing savers in the morning so you can win your day by 8 a.m. is to go to bed on time. So that is typically the biggest struggle is we'll stay up right till 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and then we can't figure out why we can't get up at 5 a.m. the next day. So it really does start with what you do the night before. So for me, it's making sure I'm asleep by 9:30. It's reading my fiction book before I go to sleep, so that way I can stay asleep. I think John once mentioned to me that he can't have caffeine after like 3 o'clock because that affects his sleep. So figuring out what it is to ensure that you go to bed on time is actually the simplest way to get started. I would also recommend just start by waking up 30 minutes earlier, right? You don't have to start by waking up 2 hours earlier than you normally do. Just start with 30 minutes and then make it longer each week until you're at a point where you feel like that's your good routine, that you're good with an hour, hour and a half, whatever that looks like for you. And then when you do that, do your savers just 1 minute. So wake up 30 minutes early, do silence for a minute, do affirmations for a minute, visualizations for a minute, exercise for a minute. Like maybe you just do 10 sit-ups or 10 push-ups, or you turn on the music real loud and you dance around to your favorite song for as long as the song is, but just do it real quick. It doesn't have to be long. And then just read for 1 minute. And then every time you get up, just make it gradually longer and longer. You don't have to burn the ships with this process. Just get started and start small and then take baby steps to get bigger if that's what works for you. Accountability, have an accountability partner, start a group chat with someone. Maybe we could do like a Facebook group, whatever that may look like. If you scan this QR code here, there actually is a Miracle Morning national Facebook group, or probably global Facebook group. But if that's not enough accountability for you, like find a system that works for you. For Ben, that was a group chat with 5 of his friends. So find a way to have accountability, because that's the best way to build any habit. And then lastly, just give yourself some grace. Any habit takes time to develop. I've been doing this for 6-7 years, and there's still times that I fall off the bandwagon, whether I get sick and then it's just hard to get back in the routine. Life happens, so just give yourself grace. If you stop, you can always pick back up. And then, of course, this is always something too that we can work on in our one-on-ones with your coach, just so that way we can be here to help support you. So I'll leave you with, where you are is a result of who you were, but where you go depends entirely on who you choose to be. So what did we learn today in 5 minutes? Any golden nuggets that you're going to implement this week? And I say this week because we don't have to wait until Mondays to implement new things, despite popular belief.
I like the spending money on memories, not things, because I'm really good at spending money on things.
Me too.
Shiny things.
I like what you said about making sure that I enjoy what I'm reading, because I am the kind of person that I'm with Mariah. I have a goal of 24 books this year. You've knocked me out of the ballpark with 52. I don't know how you're doing that. But I started a book that was recommended and I found myself not being interested. So I'm like, oh, this is gonna suck. Like I was already like downplaying the conversation and talking myself out of the reading. So I love the fact that you shared, making sure that it is enjoyable to then build myself up, because I was already like anticipating how this 24 was going to go based off of my first book that I started. But I'm picking up another one and I'm just going to start it and go from there. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah, don't put yourself through a bad book. Like if you don't like it, just chat GBT the 10 highlights and move on.
That was a good one for me.
Like the positive affirmations, even the I am a morning person, I like to read, I will exercise, like everything that we're talking about here, starting off with the positive affirmation of actually doing the things to help get in the mindset of creating that routine.
I love
My
that.
biggest takeaway is what you said at the very end, Brittany. Like, you don't have to wait till Monday. And I think that's something I kind of decided earlier this year is I don't have to wait for a new year. I don't have to wait for the 66-day challenge to begin to start doing the habits. I don't have to wait for the SAVERS class to start my, miracle morning. And I just kind of go into things knowing that they're going to be imperfect, but just starting instead of waiting until a Monday or waiting until after the class has been taught. Like, just have fun with it, because then you have a better idea of what you need to learn in that class or whatever. So if we're having a class on listings or a class on budgeting or a class on whatever it might be, don't wait till that class to start doing it. Start doing it, then get to the class, and you'll have a clearer understanding of the difficult parts for you. So going into this was more enjoyable because I'd already started the process, and I'm like, okay, I better understand the content that Brittany is giving us today.
I really appreciate that. And I do have to run, but Adrian's going to take over from here and help you dive deeper into visualization. It looks like we want a morning text thread, so I am more than happy to do this. If you want to be in the text thread, email me so I'm not texting everybody. Is 6 a.m. a fair time? Do you guys want me to do it at 7? You tell me, and I'll get it started. Six is good. All right, so email me. I'm going to drop my email in the chat. So that way I know.
I'm not sure Amy wants 6 a.m. You saw her face.
I can't see anyone's faces when I'm in present mode, so that's hilarious. Well, email me and maybe throw in your time preference, and I'll just kind of do what the consensus is. But I will see everybody hopefully in person tomorrow. But have a good time with Adrian. I look forward to watching the recording. See y'all.
Thanks, Brittany.
Bye.
All right, guys. I'm going to give us a break. I think technically my class is on the calendar for 12:15. And so if there's anybody that's planning on popping on, we're going to do a quick break, do your bathroom, do your drink, grab some lunch, whatever you need to do. And if you're doing the vision board class, just sort of start thinking about your goals for 2024 as we head into this class, because you're going to need to know them. Okay. We'll be back at 12:15. I'm going to mute and stop my video, but I'm here if someone needs me.